Lieutenant Commander Olivia Grant stood in front of the mirror and adjusted her uniform one last time. Today was an important day. In exactly 1 hour she would marry Captain William Harrison, a man she had met only 3 times before. This was not a love match. This was a contract, pure and simple. The United Earth Space Command had clear policies about benefits. Married officers received better housing, higher allowances, and most importantly to Olivia, preferential consideration for certain assignments, specifically the Orion expedition, which required married status for all senior scientific personnel due to the psychological stability marriage supposedly provided during long missions. William needed the marriage just as much as she did. As the new interim commander of Europa Station, he was entitled to the spacious family quarters, but only if he had a family. Single commanders were housed in the standard officer quarters, which were notoriously cramped and located near the constantly humming engine cores. They had found each other through a military matchmaking service that specialized in contract marriages. Their agreement was straightforward. Marry for 2 years, maintain a professional appearance, share quarters, and then divorce amicably when their assignments ended. No emotions, no complications, no mess. Ready to become Mrs. Harrison? Asked Olivia's friend and fellow scientist Kate Wilson, who had agreed to serve as witness. That's Lieutenant Commander Grant Harrison, thank you very much, Olivia replied with a small smile. And yes, I'm ready to get this over with. The ceremony in Europa Station's administrative office took less than 10 minutes. Captain William Harrison was tall, with short brown hair already showing hints of gray at the temples despite being only 35. His handshake was firm, his blue eyes serious. He seemed as businesslike about the arrangement as she was, which Olivia appreciated. Congratulations, said the administrator, looking bored. You're now married. Your updated benefit packages will be available in your accounts within 24 hours. William nodded at Olivia. Shall we go see our new quarters? Their new home on Europa Station was everything they had hoped for. Spacious by space station standards, with separate bedrooms, a shared living area, and even a small kitchen unit where they could prepare meals instead of eating in the mess hall. This will work, William said, inspecting the space with approval. I've had a partition installed in the living area. You can use that half for your research when you're not in the lab. Thank you, Olivia replied, surprised by his thoughtfulness. I appreciate that. The first few weeks were awkward, as they learned to navigate around each other in their shared space. William was neat and organized, while Olivia tended to spread her research materials everywhere. But instead of conflict, they quickly established a routine. William worked early shifts and was often gone before Olivia woke. Olivia frequently worked late in the research labs, returning after William had gone to bed. They saw each other most often during their mandatory public appearances. As station commander, William was expected to host regular gatherings for visiting dignitaries and high-ranking officers. Olivia played her part well, standing by his side, making intelligent conversation, and helping to advance both their careers through these valuable networking opportunities. 3 months into their arrangement, Olivia was surprised to discover she actually enjoyed William's company. He was intelligent and possessed a dry sense of humor that emerged when they were alone. He asked thoughtful questions about her xenobiology research, showing genuine interest in her work studying alien microorganisms discovered on Europa's ocean floor. These microbes could revolutionize our understanding of how life forms, she explained one evening, showing him slides on her datapad. They use a completely different method of energy production than anything on Earth. Could they be dangerous? William asked, studying the images carefully. All new life forms are potentially dangerous, Olivia answered. That's why my work is so important. Understanding them is the first step to ensuring they don't harm us if we encounter more complex versions elsewhere. William nodded. Your work matters, Olivia. Don't let anyone tell you different. His support meant more than she expected. Previous relationships had faltered because few men could handle Olivia's dedication to her career. William not only accepted it but respected it. As months passed, they settled into a comfortable friendship. They began eating dinner together when their schedules allowed. They watched entertainment broadcasts side by side on the couch. They even started exercising together in the station's gym facility. "People are starting to think we're a real couple," Olivia commented one day as they jogged side by side on treadmills. William glanced at her. "Is that a problem?" "No," she admitted. "It actually makes things easier." By the end of their first year, Olivia realized with some alarm that she genuinely cared for William. He had become her closest friend on the station. They worked well together, respecting each other's space and supporting each other's careers. When William was passed over for a promotion he deserved, Olivia was genuinely angry on his behalf. When Olivia's research funding was threatened, William used his influence to ensure it continued. They never spoke of these feelings. Their contract had clear terms. Emotional attachment wasn't part of the deal. Then came the news that changed everything. William was offered command of the UES Horizon, humanity's most advanced deep space exploration vessel. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, a 5-year mission beyond the reach of normal communication channels, exploring regions where humans had never ventured. "When do you leave?" Olivia asked when he told her, trying to keep her voice neutral. 3 weeks, he replied. "The mission preparations are already underway." "And our contract?" "It ends in 2 months anyway," William said, his voice carefully professional. "I've prepared the divorce papers. We can sign them tomorrow. You'll keep the quarters until your research assignment ends." Olivia nodded, ignoring the unexpected tightness in her chest. "Of course. This is what we always planned." The night before they signed the divorce papers, William brought home a bottle of real champagne, an expensive luxury on a space station. "To successful careers," he toasted. "To successful careers," she echoed. They talked late into the night, reminiscing about their time together, the challenges they'd faced, the small victories they'd achieved. And somewhere between the second and third glass of champagne, something changed. A look held too long, a hand lingering on an arm. Neither could say afterward who made the first move. Perhaps they both did. But for one night, they set aside the contract and were simply a man and a woman who had grown to care deeply for each other. Morning came too soon. They signed the papers without discussion of the night before. William packed his few personal belongings. "Goodbye, Olivia," he said formally at the door. "Goodbye, William," she replied. "Safe travels." 3 weeks later, she watched on the station's main screen as the UES Horizon departed on its historic journey. William Harrison, no longer her husband, was now one of humanity's great explorers. What neither of them knew was that their final night together had created something that would change not just their lives, but the future of all humanity. 6 weeks after William's departure on the UES Horizon, Olivia Grant sat alone in the medical bay of Europa Station, staring at the test results on her screen. She ran the test 3 times to be sure. Each time the result was the same: pregnant. This was not part of the plan. Their contract marriage had ended cleanly. The divorce papers were signed. William was now millions of miles away, heading toward the outer reaches of the solar system before the ship would make its jump to faster-than-light travel. Once that happened, even sending a message would be nearly impossible. Olivia placed her hand on her still flat stomach. A child, their child, created on that last night together when they had both let their guards down. Lieutenant Commander Grant? The station's chief medical officer, Dr. Alan Pierce, entered the small exam room. "Is everything all right? The system flagged your medical scans." Olivia straightened her back. "I'm pregnant." Dr. Pierce's eyebrows rose. "I see. And the father? Captain Harrison. But you two are divorced and he's on the Horizon mission." It wasn't a question, just a statement of the complicated facts. "Yes. Have you informed him?" Olivia shook her head. "The Horizon is almost out of standard communication range. By the time a message reached him, they'd be preparing for the jump." She looked directly at the doctor. "I need to know my options." Dr. Pierce nodded professionally. "You have several. Medical termination is still possible at this stage. Alternatively, the military has support programs for single parents, though I won't lie to you. Continuing your research career while raising a child on a space station won't be easy. Olivia thought about the tiny life growing inside her. A piece of William, a piece of herself. Something real and lasting from their time together. I'm keeping the baby, she said firmly. The next months were difficult. Morning sickness hit Olivia hard, making her laboratory work challenging. Her colleagues were supportive, but she could feel their judgment. Contract marriages were common in the service, but most couples were careful to avoid pregnancies. Some thought she had trapped William deliberately, not knowing he was already beyond her reach. Olivia tried sending messages to the horizon anyway. William, I'm pregnant with your child, please respond. Each message went unanswered, lost in the vastness of space. By her 6th month, Olivia's research on Europa's alien microbes had reached a critical stage. The organism showed unusual properties, reacting to human DNA in ways her team hadn't predicted. They seem to be trying to communicate with our cells, she explained to her research assistant. It's like they recognize something familiar in us. That same night, Olivia felt the first kick from her baby, strong and decisive like William himself. 8 months after William's departure, Daniel Grant was born in the medical bay of Europa Station. He was a healthy baby boy with William's blue eyes and Olivia's dark hair. But from the beginning, the doctors noticed something unusual. His brain activity is off the charts, Dr. Pierce said, showing Olivia the scans. And there are subtle anomalies in his genetic structure that I can't explain. Is he healthy? Olivia asked, holding her son protectively. Completely healthy as far as I can tell. Just different. As Daniel grew, these differences became more apparent. At 8 months, he spoke his first complete sentence. By age 2, he could read. At 3, he was solving mathematical problems meant for teenagers. The military took notice. Representatives from Earth Defense Intelligence began visiting regularly, observing Daniel's development with growing interest. His cognitive abilities are unprecedented, one scientist remarked as Daniel, now 3.5, solved a complex puzzle in seconds. We'd like to run more tests. Olivia became increasingly uncomfortable with the attention. He's a child, not a research subject, she insisted. A child with potentially strategically important abilities, the intelligence officer replied. We need to understand how this happened. Then came the order that changed everything. Olivia and Daniel were to be transferred to the Lunar Research Facility on Earth's moon, a place known for its classified military projects. That night, Olivia accessed her research files. Her work with the Europa microbes had been classified months ago, but she still had limited access. What she found confirmed her growing suspicions. The microbes had altered her DNA in subtle ways before her pregnancy. These changes had been passed to Daniel, enhanced somehow by William's own genetic structure. Her son was more than just gifted. He was possibly the next step in human evolution, triggered by contact with alien life. The implications were clear. At the lunar facility, Daniel would become a permanent research subject. They would study him, test him, perhaps even try to replicate what had happened. Her son would never have a normal life. Olivia made her decision quickly. Using her scientific clearance, she downloaded all her research data. Then she packed only essential items, added a sedative to Daniel's juice to ensure he would sleep quietly, and waited for the night shift change when security would be lightest. Where are we going, Mommy? Daniel asked sleepily as the sedative began to take effect. On an adventure, Olivia whispered. Far away where you can grow up safe. Using her knowledge of station protocols, Olivia bypassed security systems and accessed a supply shuttle scheduled for departure to the outer colonies. She hacked the manifest to add 2 passengers, Lisa and Peter Beck, civilian contractors heading to the mining colony on Ceres. As the shuttle pulled away from Europa Station, Olivia held her sleeping son close. She was now AWOL, possibly facing charges of treason for stealing classified research. But looking at Daniel's peaceful face, she knew she had made the right choice. Meanwhile, billions of miles away, The UES Horizon had made its first major discovery. Captain William Harrison stood in awe before a massive alien structure floating in the emptiness of deep space. "It's at least 10,000 years old," his science officer reported, "and it's still operational." William reached out to touch the strange metal surface which seemed to glow faintly at his approach. "What is it?" "We're not sure yet, sir, but based on preliminary scans, it appears to be some sort of beacon or communication device." William didn't know why, but he felt a strange connection to this ancient artifact, as if it had been waiting, specifically for him, for humans. "Begin full analysis," he ordered. "I want to know what it's saying and who built it." Neither William nor Olivia knew it yet, but their separate journeys, his through the stars and hers on the run with their extraordinary son, were following a path laid down millennia ago by beings who had seen humanity's potential long before humans themselves had reached for the stars. 5 years after its departure, the UES Horizon returned to Earth orbit. News broadcasts across the solar system showed the ship's arrival. People gathered in public spaces to watch the historic moment on large screens. The mission that many had thought impossible had succeeded beyond all expectations. Captain William Harrison stood on the bridge as Earth grew larger in the view screen. He looked different now. His hair had gone completely gray. Deep lines marked his face. His blue eyes, once sharp and clear, now held a strange, distant look, as if he had seen things beyond human understanding. "Prepare for docking procedures," he ordered, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. The Horizon carried treasures that would change humanity forever, ancient alien technology, star maps to worlds humans had never imagined, and most importantly, the knowledge that humans were not alone in the universe and never had been. After docking, William faced hours of debriefing. Military officials, government leaders, and scientific experts all wanted immediate access to what the Horizon had discovered. The precursors, as we call them, existed millions of years ago, William explained to the assembled group. They spread throughout our galaxy, seeding planets with life. We believe Earth was one of their projects. "And the technology you recovered?" asked General Laura Coleman, the head of Earth's Defense Forces. "Beyond anything we've ever seen. Their smallest tools are more advanced than our greatest achievements." William activated a small device on the table. It floated upward and projected a 3-dimensional star map of the galaxy. "This alone could advance our space travel capabilities by centuries." The implications were clear. The patents and rights to this technology would be worth unimaginable wealth. And as mission commander, William had first claim under space exploration law. What William didn't tell them was what had happened to him personally. During the mission's 3rd year, the Horizon had encountered a strange energy field. While examining an alien artifact, William had been exposed to unknown radiation. The ship's doctor had kept it secret at William's request, but the truth was impossible to hide now that they had returned. Later that day, alone with Dr. Helen Rivera in the medical bay, William faced the reality of his condition. "How long?" he asked simply. Dr. Rivera looked at her scans. "The cellular degradation is accelerating. 8 months, a year at most." William nodded. He had suspected as much. "And there's nothing that can be done?" "Not with our current medical technology." She hesitated. "Perhaps some of what you brought back could save me." William smiled sadly. "Perhaps, but we're years away from understanding how to use it safely." After the medical examination, William was surprised to find a security officer waiting for him. "Captain Harrison, there's a matter requiring your attention." The officer handed him a tablet. During routine background updates of returning personnel, an anomaly was discovered. William scrolled through the information and felt his heart stop. The file contained information about Olivia Grant, now classified as AWOL, and potentially guilty of treason. She had disappeared 3 years earlier with classified research data, and with her, a child, his child. The security officer watched him carefully. "Did you know Lieutenant Commander Grant was pregnant when you left?" "No," William said truthfully. "Our marriage was a contract arrangement. It ended before the Horizon departed." Nevertheless, genetic records confirm the child is yours, a boy named Daniel. William stared at the image on the screen, a 3-year-old with his eyes and Olivia's dark hair. Where are they now? Unknown. They disappeared into the outer colonies. Finding them has not been a priority given the limited resources in that region. Until now. Because now, the child's father was one of the wealthiest and most famous men in the solar system. William made his decision instantly. This information stays classified. I want a private search operation, no military involvement. Using his new wealth and influence, William hired the best private investigators in the system. Within weeks, they had tracked Olivia and Daniel to Eris, a distant dwarf planet with a small mining colony. Olivia worked as the colony's medical officer under the name Lisa Beck. 5-year-old Daniel attended the colony's small school, his extraordinary abilities carefully hidden. William traveled to Eris on a private vessel, listed in the flight plan as a corporate representative checking on mining operations. When he arrived at the small medical clinic during off hours, Olivia was alone, organizing supplies. She looked up when the door opened, then froze in shock. William? He stepped forward. Hello, Olivia. She moved quickly, hitting an alarm button under her desk. Stay back. I've alerted security. William raised his hands. I'm not here to take you back, or to harm you in any way. Then why are you here? Her eyes were hard, suspicious. Because I know about Daniel. And I know why you ran. Olivia's face showed her fear. Daniel is a normal child. No, he's not. And we both know it. William moved slowly, placing a small device on her desk. It projected an image of Daniel's DNA structure alongside William's and Olivia's. My scientists analyzed the records. The Europa microbes changed your DNA. When combined with mine, something unexpected happened. Olivia stared at the projected images. He's still just a boy. He deserves a normal life. I agree. William met her eyes. Olivia, I'm dying. The directness of his statement caught her off guard. What? Radiation exposure during the mission. Untreatable. I have less than a year. Before she could respond, the clinic door opened again. A small boy with serious blue eyes stood there, staring at William with obvious curiosity. You're my father, the boy said simply. Not a question. A statement of fact. William felt something catch in his throat. Yes, my name is William Harrison. I know. Mom keeps a picture of you. She thinks I don't know where it is, but I do. The boy stepped closer, examining William's face. You found something out there. Something important. William glanced at Olivia in surprise, then back at the boy. Yes. How did you know that? I see things sometimes. In my dreams. Daniel's eyes seemed older than his years. They've been waiting for us for a very long time. In that moment, William understood why he had felt such a strong connection to the alien artifacts. Why the technology had responded to him in ways the scientists couldn't explain, and why finding his son now, before it was too late, was more important than he had realized. Olivia, he said quietly, I didn't come to disrupt your lives, but I need to talk to you both about what I found out there, about what it might mean for Daniel. Why should I trust you? Olivia asked, though her tone had softened. Because whatever is happening to Daniel connected to what we discovered, and because despite how our marriage ended, I would never do anything to harm either of you. William looked down at his son. I just want the chance to know him, for whatever time I have left. Daniel looked up at his mother. We should listen to him, Mom. He has important things to tell us. Olivia hesitated, then nodded slowly. We can talk, but Daniel stays with me. Always. I wouldn't have it any other way, William promised. As the small family left the clinic together, none of them noticed the small alien device William had brought beginning to glow softly, responding to Daniel's presence in a way it never had to anyone else. Olivia's small home on the Eris colony was simple but comfortable. A main living area connected to 2 bedrooms and a tiny kitchen. Pictures drawn by Daniel covered one wall, some showing normal childhood subjects like spaceships and stars, others depicting strange symbols and structures no child should know about. William sat at the kitchen table with Daniel while Olivia made tea. The boy studied his father with intense curiosity. "You found their city," Daniel said suddenly. "The one under the ice." William nearly dropped his cup. That discovery had been made during the 4th year of their mission. A vast alien structure, buried beneath the ice of a distant moon. The information was still classified at the highest level. "How do you know about that?" William asked quietly. Daniel shrugged. "I see it sometimes when I sleep. A big round building with lights that change color and machines that still work after a million years." Olivia returned with the tea. "He's been drawing places and things he couldn't possibly know about since he was 3. At first I thought he was just creative." "Then you realized it was more," William finished. She nodded. "What happened to you out there, William? What did you find?" William took a small metal case from his pocket and opened it. Inside was a disc-shaped object about the size of a coin. It glowed with a soft blue light. "We found thousands of artifacts from an ancient species, the precursors. Most of the technology is dormant, unreactive. But some of it responded to me." He set the disc on the table. "Like this." The moment William placed the disc down, it began to pulse with light. Then, as Daniel reached toward it, the light changed from blue to gold. "It likes me," Daniel said, with a smile. "What is it?" Olivia asked, moving protectively closer to her son. "A key of sorts. It activates larger systems." William watched as the disc floated slightly above the table when Daniel touched it. The scientists on Earth couldn't make it do that. Only I could, and even then not as strongly as Daniel is doing now. Olivia looked concerned. "Is it safe?" "Yes. We tested it extensively." William met her eyes. "Olivia, the precursors left their technology for a reason. They were dying out as a species, but they had cataloged thousands of worlds with potential for life. They seeded those worlds, including Earth, with the building blocks of life, and left behind their knowledge for the species that would eventually evolve. And now we found it," Olivia said. "Not just found it, connected to it." William gestured to Daniel, who was making the disc spin in the air with just his fingertips. "Something in my genetic structure allows me to interface with their technology. The Europa microbes altered your DNA in subtle ways. When our DNA combined to create Daniel, he became something new," Olivia finished. "Something they planned for." "I believe so," William agreed. "The precursors were master geneticists. They may have engineered a path for their successor species to develop abilities that would allow them to access the precursor technology." Daniel looked up from the floating disc. "They left because the dark things were coming. They couldn't fight anymore." William and Olivia exchanged a startled look. "What dark things, Daniel?" William asked gently. "The hunters. They eat worlds." Daniel's eyes seemed distant, as if seeing something far away. "They'll come here too someday. That's why they left us the tools, so we can be ready." The implications were enormous. If Daniel was somehow accessing knowledge from the precursors, if there was a threat out there that had wiped out an advanced civilization, "I need to help him understand what he can do," William said. "And I need to make sure the knowledge I've brought back isn't misused." Over the next weeks, William spent every day with Daniel and Olivia. His health was declining faster than expected, but he pushed through his growing weakness. He set up a small lab in their home, bringing in equipment and several more precursor artifacts that responded to both his and Daniel's presence. While Daniel napped one afternoon, William showed Olivia the changes he had made to his will. "You're leaving everything to Daniel," she said, looking at the document in shock. "Your patents, your estate, everything." "He's my son," William said simply. "But more importantly, he's the key to understanding the precursor technology. This will ensure he has the resources to continue the work when he's older. The military won't like this, they'll challenge it. Let them try." William smiled grimly. I've made arrangements. What William didn't tell Olivia was how advanced his illness had become. The pain was constant now, kept at bay only by increasingly strong medication. He had weeks left, not months. One evening, as they watched Daniel sleeping, Olivia finally asked the question she had been holding back. That night before you left, was it real? Or just a moment of weakness? William took her hand. It was the most real thing in my life until I met our son. I wish things had been different, she whispered, that we had more time. The news of William Harrison's will reached Earth quickly. Military officials and government leaders were outraged. The technology he had brought back was worth trillions. The patents alone could reshape the global economy. And he was leaving it all to a 5-year-old boy living in a remote colony. The legal challenges began immediately. Government lawyers questioned Daniel's paternity, despite the genetic evidence. They claimed Olivia was unfit as a guardian, due to her AWOL status. They argued the precursor technology was too important to be controlled by a private citizen, even if that citizen was the mission commander who discovered it. A hearing was scheduled on Earth. William, Olivia, and Daniel would need to attend in person. I don't want to go back, Olivia said as they packed. They'll try to take him from me. They'll try, William agreed, but they won't succeed. The night before they were to leave for Earth, William's condition worsened dramatically. As he lay in bed struggling to breathe, he called Daniel to his side. There's something I need to show you, he whispered. From under his pillow, he took a small pyramid-shaped device, another precursor artifact. This one was different from the others. It seemed to shimmer, its surface constantly changing. Put your hands on it with mine, William instructed. Daniel did as he was told. The moment their hands touched the device together, it began to glow with intense light. William gasped as energy flowed through him into the device and then into Daniel. For a moment, both father and son were connected by streams of golden light. Then the light faded. The device turned dark and crumbled to dust. Dad? Daniel's voice trembled. William smiled weakly. It's okay. It worked. What worked? Olivia asked, rushing to his side. The final connection. Daniel can access everything now. All the knowledge. William's eyes were growing dim. They can't stop him now. They can't control what they don't understand. As William's breathing slowed, Daniel placed his small hand on his father's chest. I can see it all now, the boy whispered. I understand. William's last words were so quiet that Olivia had to lean close to hear them. Tell our story to the stars. The grand courtroom on Earth was packed with people. Government officials, military officers, journalists, and curious citizens filled every seat. At the front, Olivia sat beside her son Daniel, both dressed in formal black clothes. William Harrison had been buried 3 days earlier in a private ceremony, against the wishes of officials who wanted a public state funeral for the hero of the Horizon mission. On the other side of the courtroom sat a team of government lawyers. They had filed emergency motions to block William's will, arguing that the precursor technology was too important to be controlled by a child. This hearing will determine the validity of Captain William Harrison's last will and testament, announced Judge Ellen Russo. The government contends that the deceased was not of sound mind when he named Daniel Grant Harrison as his sole heir. Daniel sat quietly, his blue eyes taking in everything. Since the night William died, he had changed. He seemed older somehow, more aware. Olivia had caught him writing in a strange language she didn't recognize, drawing complex diagrams that looked like advanced technology. The government calls Dr. Paul Nelson, chief psychologist for the Space Command, announced the lead government attorney. Dr. Nelson took the stand and testified that William's radiation exposure could have affected his judgment, making him mentally unfit when he changed his will. In your expert opinion, was Captain Harrison capable of making sound decisions near the end of his life? Asked the government lawyer. Based on his medical records, I believe his cognitive abilities were likely impaired, Dr. Nelson stated firmly. Daniel tugged at Olivia's sleeve and whispered something in her ear. She looked surprised, then nodded and wrote a note to their lawyer, Sam Rogers. When it was their turn to question the witness, Rogers approached with a note. Dr. Nelson, did you ever examine Captain Harrison personally? No, I reviewed his records. Are you aware that Captain Harrison underwent 3 separate mental competency evaluations before finalizing his will, and that all 3 certified him as fully competent? Dr. Nelson looked uncomfortable. I wasn't provided with those records. As the hearing continued, the government's case seemed strong. They brought witnesses who testified about the critical importance of the precursor technology for Earth security. They presented legal precedents for overriding private ownership in matters of planetary defense. During a break, Olivia knelt beside Daniel. Are you okay? This must be confusing. Daniel shook his head. It's not confusing. They're afraid of what they don't understand. He looked at her with his father's eyes. Dad knew this would happen. That's why he gave me the full connection before he died. Before Olivia could ask what he meant, they were called back into the courtroom. The government's final witness was General Laura Coleman. This technology represents the greatest advancement in human history, she testified. It cannot be controlled by private individuals, especially not a child with no understanding of its importance. Daniel whispered to Olivia again, and she passed another note to their lawyer. General Coleman, Rogers asked, has your team been able to activate any of the larger precursor systems without Captain Harrison's assistance? The general hesitated. We've made some progress, but it's been difficult. In fact, you've made no progress at all, have you? The artifacts respond only to specific genetic markers. As they argued, Daniel slipped something from his pocket. A small disc similar to the one William had shown them. Without anyone noticing, he placed it on the table in front of him. Suddenly, every electronic device in the courtroom activated simultaneously. Screens, tablets, even the lights flickered and then displayed the same message in glowing text. The child is acknowledged. The legacy continues. Gasps filled the room. The judge stared at her own tablet in shock. What is happening? She demanded. Before anyone could answer, reports began coming in. All across Earth and the colonies, precursor artifacts that had remained dormant despite years of study had suddenly activated. Each displayed the same message, in every human language. In the confusion, Daniel stood up. Though only 5 years old, he spoke with a clear, confident voice that carried throughout the room. The precursors left their knowledge for those who could use it properly, he said. My father was the first to connect with their network. Now that connection has passed to me. The courtroom fell silent. I can show you, Daniel continued. He held up the small disc which now floated above his palm, glowing with golden light. This is just a key. The real gift is much bigger. General Coleman stepped forward. What gift? Knowledge, technology, a warning. Daniel looked at her with eyes that seemed far older than his years. The precursors were running from something that destroys civilizations. They left us tools to defend ourselves when it arrives. This is absurd, one of the government lawyers said. He's just a child repeating things he's heard. Daniel turned to the man. Your name is Edward Vance. You have a scar on your left shoulder from a boating accident when you were 12. You're allergic to shellfish but sometimes eat it anyway. Because you like the taste. Vance staggered back, his face pale. How could you possibly know that? The precursor network contains knowledge of all human genetic lines. They've been watching us evolve for millions of years. Daniel turned back to the judge. I don't want to own the technology. I want to share it, but only with those who will use it wisely. Over the next hours, as the implications of what had happened sank in, the government's case crumbled. It became clear that without Daniel's cooperation, the precursor technology would remain unusable. 1 week later, the Harrison Foundation was established, with Olivia as director and Daniel as its guiding mind. The foundation would control access to the precursor technology, sharing it for humanity's benefit while ensuring it wasn't misused. 5 years passed. 10-year-old Daniel stood at the large window of the Foundation's headquarters, watching as the first human ship equipped with precursor-derived faster-than-light engines prepared for launch. The ship was named the William Harrison, in honor of the man who had made it all possible. Olivia joined her son at the window. "Your father would be proud." Daniel nodded. "He knew this would happen. That's why he made sure I would inherit everything." "Not everything," Olivia corrected, placing a hand on his shoulder. "The Foundation belongs to humanity." "But I meant more than the technology," Daniel said quietly. "I inherited his connection to the precursors, his understanding of what we need to become." In the years since the courtroom scene, Daniel had guided the careful release of precursor technology. Medical advances had eliminated most diseases. Clean energy had replaced polluting fuels. Poverty was being systematically eliminated as resources became plentiful. But that was just the beginning. The precursors had left plans for defenses, for weapons, for shields that could protect entire planets. Because something was coming, just as Daniel had warned. The hunters that had forced the precursors to flee millions of years ago were still out there, moving slowly through the galaxy, consuming worlds. "How long do we have?" Olivia asked, voicing the question that had hung between them for years. 50 years, maybe less," Daniel replied. "But we'll be ready." He touched the window, tracing the outline of the ship with his finger. The precursors couldn't fight because they were peaceful by nature. But humans know how to fight. Olivia finished. Daniel smiled, and in that moment he looked exactly like William. "That's why they chose us. That's why they left everything to us. Because when the hunters come, humanity won't run. Humanity will stand and fight." As they watched, the William Harrison's engines flared to life, and humanity took its first true step into the stars, armed with the legacy of an ancient race and guided by a child who had inherited the future of two civilizations.